guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Praetorian.
Welcome back to Ramblings of Mad People, April 2023 edition. Dun 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 dun. So, this is our monthly podcast that we've been very good about this year, doing at the midpoint of the next month for the previous
because I don't know, we just seem to be busy all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. But we're getting them done and we're putting them out there, and
We're doing
that's what's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we played a few things in April. So we're here to talk about those. Do you want to start us off, Mr. War Machine?
So in March and April, I did several of the DLCs for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm going to talk about the three main story DLCs, because there's several challenge DLCs, most of which I haven't done yet. Mm-hmm. I'm having a break.
That says it all right there, doesn't it? That you needed to take a break.
It does. So there was Wrath of the Druids, Siege of Paris, and the Ragnarok DLC. I enjoyed, for the most part, Wrath of the Druids and the Ragnarok DLC. The Siege of Paris was just kind of boring to me. It just felt like too similar to what the main game was. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, here's another extra thing to do, where it's Viking raids and a siege, and just you're going against the King Charles the Fat of France. And it just felt just like another area of the Britain campaign.
Yeah.
Which was it just wasn't great. And it was more of the same with the get all the collectibles and do all the little quests and chase all the paper and stack all the stones. I will give it to the Ragnarok DLC. There was no chasing paper, and I was immensely happy about that.
Yep.
But yeah, and they all of them suffer from what Assassin's Creed Valhalla suffers from, which is too much generic filler stuff. Mm-hmm. So the Wrath of the Druids DLC and the Paris DLC, you had like a faction that you needed to get reputation with. In the Paris one, it was just do a bunch of little missions to go and like kill a bandit leader and raid their chest and then go back and rinse and repeat, because it was the quickest way of getting it done. And then in the Wrath of the Druids one, it was you have these trading posts that you need to take over and then upgrade, which then generate resources, and you use the resources to complete these like trade contracts. But you have to wait over time to accrue more resources, and it was just kind of boring, sadly.
Tedious, boring.
Yeah, I think that's the note for like the problem that Assassin's Creed Valhalla has is it has some interesting sections, and then it's just a lot of boring.
Yep.
And the DLCs were a microcosm of that. But I liked the main story for the Irish campaign, where it was the conflict between like Christianity and paganism, and that linked to some of those who came before stuff, and because I don't want to spoil it in case people not played and intend to play, because the game is still the most recent Assassin's Creed, even Mirage is, I air quotes, coming out this year.
I mean, Assassin's Creed is generally pretty good about coming out when they say they will. So.
Yes. But with the more modern generations of video games, you can never be 100% sure.
True.
Because, like we were talking about earlier, Dreadwolf for Dragon Age has been pushed to 2024. Mm-hmm. First quarter? Or second quarter?
It said it won't release before April 2024. So
it's going to be at least second quarter, and then they'll probably push it to the holiday.
Yeah.
But it's like...
depending.
Yeah, I'm just... I was happy with the story. I found it interesting. I liked the characters, especially the druid lady that you have interactions with.
Mm-hmm.
And for Ragnarok, I would also say that I liked the main story. It was interesting seeing Ivor's point of view on certain, because it's you're looking through someone else's memories as to what
Mm-hmm.
happened, and it's like a kind of simulation within a simulation
Yeah.
because it's like a dream sequence type thing. Um, so I found that more interesting than Paris, but it felt like it was leading somewhere, and then it was just like and stopped, as if there's more to come, maybe, or it was
From the druids?
no from
Well,
Ragnarok.
yeah, because there is.
Right, that's the other DLC that I've kind of started but not finished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think really like Ragnarok is implying that it's the event that caused. It's basically the solar event that occurred in the past and how the
Mm-hmm.
Norse like faction of the Isu dealt with it, as far as
Right.
I'm aware. But yeah, just tired of DLCs doing exactly the same as the main game when people complained about what the main game did. Because, you know, the majority of people I've had conversations with about Assassin's Creed Valhalla are like, why was there so much to do
Yeah.
that was all the same, and why did we have to do all of it? Because they did that in Assassin's Creed Origins, where it was go to every question mark on the map and complete it, which
Mm-hmm.
means killing the bandit leader and finding a chest or killing some alpha animal, etc. They
Right.
didn't do that in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but then they did it again in Valhalla, almost as if
Right.
like, did people complain at Odyssey that you didn't have to do the whole map? Because if
Yeah,
they
it's
did,
very strange, right?
I don't remember that.
It's like you take a step forward and then you take a step back, and I suppose what their thought was, well, I have two answers for that. One is probably more realistic than the other. Um but both are possible. One possibility is they thought that the activities that they had to do in Valhalla were more interesting,
Hmm.
because it was like, oh, well, we have like, 10 different kinds of things. It doesn't matter that we've repeated each of those 10 different kinds of things 100 times. you know, we have different things for people to do, and so that should keep them interested. So our content is better content than it was in Origins. So that could be the reason. The other possibility is that they found through whatever means of statistical analysis that they have on how much money certain things made and how long people kept playing stuff, that if they put more things in for you to do, that would make them more money in the long run because people would be playing the game for longer.
So more possibility that they would buy their microtransactions, which
Right.
Valhalla had a lot of for
Yes.
cosmetic stuff like mounts and armor sets and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that like if we keep them playing for a long time, then they'll want to, people might want to go in and buy a new outfit or whatever, right? So maybe that's also a factor. I'm not sure.
I will also say this. I know that my like talking about it was a bit incoherent and mashing the DLCs together, but some of them I played more than a month ago. And so I'm like, Ragnarok, I remember. The other two, not so much.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem is it's so they felt so generic, even though I said I enjoyed the Irish one, that I
Mm-hmm.
just don't it just felt like more of the same. And so my brain has just gone, eh, yeah, it was just more Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And so
Yeah.
talking about it a month later, you can tell that I didn't enjoy it enough that my brain hasn't retained the like this was cool
Right. The
like other
the
games do.
details.
It's
Yeah.
gone. Oh, it's just another like one of 400 and whatever games I've played. Like
Mm-hmm.
the 40% of them that weren't or like you can only store so much knowledge in your head that it's gone, well, we've put that on the trash pile because
right, because it wasn't worthy.
so yeah,
Um,
that's
I will say the Siege of Paris one did have the best achievement in the game,
pet all the cats,
which was pet all the cats.
yes, yeah, those cats are huge.
They are.
They're like tiny tigers.
Yes, they're like bigger than my cat, and he's a big cat. So.
Yeah, I think someone just got the size wrong.
Right? Or they made them all Manxes. Right?
Is
I don't know.
Manx large?
Yes, those are big cats.
Because Manx cats to me means that it doesn't have a tail.
Oh, maybe I'm not thinking that. It's not Manx cats. It's Mancoon cats. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Manx cats.
Manx are the ones without the tails. The Mancoons.
They come from the Isle of Man. That's where they come from.
Yeah. The Maine Coons are the ones that are huge. So they just made them all Maine Coons.
Yep. So yeah, I apologize if the Odyssey of Valhalla thing seemed a bit incoherent, but it's also just, I'm so tired with that game. I am literally forcing myself to get the 100%. Yeah. Because that's what I do, is I get the 100%. But it's just like, can I be done? It's like, no, you've got all the challenge modes to do. And it's like, please? No? Okay. I'll do the challenge modes.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. I'll get them done, and then I'm going to burn the game. I'm not going to burn the game, but I feel like I'd like to burn some of it from my memory.
Yeah. Well, you already have.
It's succeeding.
So it's like, I agree with you though. Like, I've done them a while ago, longer ago than you've played them, and my memory is pretty similar for them, right? Like, I remember liking Wrath of the Druids, and I remember bits and pieces, like I remembered the final boss, but I don't remember a whole lot else about it. And the Siege of Paris, I don't remember anything except the cats. And Ragnarok I thought was interesting. Like, I liked the storyline of that one. So and I did it a little bit more recently, so I remember it more, but...
Oh, I forgot one of the positives for Ragnarok. You can get a metal pig as a mount.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
God, what was his name? Like, Galen Bursty or something like that? I know that's not right, but it's...
Yeah, it has a name that you can look up. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think you're going to be really happy when you're done with it. And what you have left to do are definitely not the most shining moments of the game. Like those challenge DLCs.
I've left the worst till last.
Yeah, those challenge DLCs are not super fun. Gulin Bursty.
The Golden Boar of Freyr.
Nice. So... yeah, like I would think like of the DLCs, Ragnarok was the best one.
It was honestly more like an expansion.
Yeah.
And expansions tend to be better than DLCs. You think about some of the Elder Scrolls ones.
Yeah.
They're some of our favorite DLCs because they're expansions, and you feel like you're getting a more immersive experience.
Yeah.
And they put more effort into it to make it different.
Right. Like, I still don't think that it was worth being a total separate thing that was not included in the gold edition. I think that that's really annoying. But
that seems to be a modern idea for gaming, is like the gold edition doesn't actually mean that it includes all the DLC anymore.
Right, it includes certain things.
Like Borderlands have done it, and now Valhalla's done it, and Far Cry 6 has done it as well, because I have the gold, the gold edition included like the first 3 DLCs, and then they had another one. It's almost as if it's like the gold edition is like the first season of DLC's edition now.
Yeah, which is, I don't know, it's frustrating, just the modern model for
That's why
games.
PlayStation is becoming appealing.
So, anyway, any final thoughts with Valhalla for now? I know you still have a little bit left to do in it, so you're not totally done, but...
Final thoughts so far? I don't even know if I'd have played it. Like, I should have loved the setting because it's England and I am English.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. But the game itself, it's just not enjoyable enough for me. Like, the main story was interesting. It was a bit too long in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the modern problem of we have the capability of making a massive open world, so let's make a massive open world. What do we fill it with? 10 things 100 different times.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that isn't fun.
No.
Like, go back and play Assassin's Creed 2, it has 100 feathers in it, and everybody complained. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has like 700 collectibles.
Yeah. It's too much.
It's too much. It's unnecessarily too much.
Yeah. It is. Well, soon you will be done with it if you can force yourself to go back to it. So.
I will.
My first game for April was Honk Honk Bitches Untitled Goose Game.
Honk.
So I mean, this game, I haven't ever played this game before, so this was the first time that I'd played it. And I know that it's a little bit of an older game at this point. It's probably like 5 or 6 years old now, which is depressing to think about how time has passed. But I had never played it before, so it was new to me. And it's one of those things where it's just simple and it's fun. You're a goose and you run around and you steal things and you destroy things and you ruin people's days and you're just an agent of chaos. And it's fun.
September 2019.
2019, not as old as I thought it might be. 4 years, almost 4 years old. So yeah, it was simple. The controls were simple, but they worked. The premise was not, anything extravagant. It's like you're a goose and you have a list of chaos that you need to make in an area before you move on to the next area where you create more chaos. And it was like 4 areas and then the little special area at the end. So it wasn't too much, it wasn't too long. There was a bunch of different things that you could like pick up and interact with. And, you caused so much mayhem in an area that they started to put up no goose signs as if that's going to stop you.
You assume I understand these signs?
Fools. You assume I care. You have no authority over me. I am Goose. So
geese actually make really good guard animals. Because
Yeah,
they will harass people and predators.
And chase them and and they make themselves really big with their wings and stuff, right? So that they make themselves threatening and whatnot. So geese are cool, except for when they poop all over everything.
Yeah, because they don't have the digestive system to eat grass, and they eat grass.
Mm-hmm. And then it's just pellets everywhere. Anyway, real life goose stories in the game. The goose is just, I like the art style. It's very simple and clean, and the goose looks cute. And it was short, but not too short. And it had some replayability because you replayed through the levels to try to get the speed runs, done. And those were fairly tight on time. I, of course, used Square One Games game guide for the speed runs, and for some of the random trophies, he has a 100% guide. And that made it really simple in terms of completing those time trials, the speed runs. For each section, it was a really good, like, order of doing things so that you could do it quickly enough. You know, a couple of them I had to retry a few times. There was one level in particular that gave me difficulty, but it was...
Was it the space level?
No, it wasn't. There was no space level. But there wasn't anything too taxing in terms of completion, and it was a fun little game. So I enjoyed it. I probably at some point will play it again on Xbox, because I liked it enough to play it again.
Yeah, I'll consider taking a look at that one, considering you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
What initially put me off was the speed runs, but now that I know that there's a good guide out there, I will more than likely play.
Yeah.
So my second game for April, I nearly said May, was Assassin's Creed Odyssey on PS4, because I just went, I want to play an Assassin's Creed game that I enjoy. And also, I had machinations for my 3000th trophy. So I played through the majority of the base game up to, like, I think I had the final chapter to do, and I did the Hidden Blade DLC in April. Thoroughly enjoyed the game. I like the setting. Ancient Greece is really interesting to me. The main story I enjoyed as well. The Cult of Cosmos stuff, and having the two dual protagonists and how they deal with which one you choose. I would also say I played as Cassandra because I like her more than Alexios as the protagonist. Just because it's nice to be able to play as a female character in an Assassin's Creed game and actually have the entire game is just you, rather than like Syndicate where it was split. But it wasn't split 50-50 for some reason. Because I believe Evie's stuff was less than
Jacob's stuff was all the main missions, and then Evie had a couple of the other... Jacob had all of the gang stuff, which was the majority of the game, and then Evie had the like,
assassin
stuff.
Yeah.
Which was way less in terms of
time.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the boat combat, like being able to set ships on fire and then ram them, split them in half, and so you didn't have to board them to get the resources. Because, well, one of my negatives of the game is the upgrade system, where you have to have a certain amount of resources. It's like leather, wood, iron, and then like obsidian glass and a couple of more rare things. It's like some crystals and money. You have to upgrade your ship to get a trophy, and also to make it so that it works well against the increasing difficulty of the game as it progresses. But it's like every time you level up, your equipment stays at the level that you were at, and so you can do, I think it's like you can just about on easy kill enemies like 4 levels above you. And so their equipment will drop at the level that they have it. So like if you assassinate a Cult of Cosmos member that has a piece of equipment that's like level 54 and you're level 50, you can use that equipment when you get to level 54. You can't equip it at level 50. But once you hit 55, that piece of equipment stays at 54. And so once you level up a bit, your equipment stays at the older levels. And so you have to go to the blacksmith and upgrade it. But as you get to higher levels, it takes more money and resources to upgrade it. So you can have a ton of money, but you still need the iron and the wood. And it just kind of got a little bit annoying, where I was like, I'll upgrade it in a couple of levels so I don't have to keep going back to the blacksmith every time or go and farm for materials.
Right, yeah.
I like the ability tree in Odyssey, where it's like you can be really good at ranged or really good. You can have like ranged abilities or combat abilities or like assassin abilities or mix and match between the two. So the versatility was nice.
Hmm.
So I tend to go with like the like power shot ability for the ranged, and then everything else is just like combat, where it's like I can set my weapons on fire, then I can go in full Ares mode, and it's effectively like rage, where you can't die while that mode's on. And you can have like this kick ability if you're trying to recruit people to your crew. You can use that to like knock them out rather than kill them, so you can then recruit them as a lieutenant because they give you different abilities randomly. Like,
Hmm.
oh, this person, like, you knock out a mercenary and it will give you like the ability to get health back when you ram a ship, or you knock out like a Athenian general and he'll have a different ability and stuff. And so you can try and customize a bit, which is fun. As I said with Valhalla, it was nice that you didn't have to 100% the game in this one, because the
Hmm.
map in this one is massive. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it is as big as Valhalla. I think it might be bigger,
And
but
just
it's
in
a lot of
terms of
water.
general space, but there's a lot of water.
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of islands, and like the main part of Greece, the Peloponnese, the peninsula bit is quite large. So I'm glad that I didn't have to go to every single question mark on the map, because that would have taken forever.
Hmm.
Going to the DLC, I think it's a good DLC because it feeds into Assassin's Creed Origins, which is cool.
Hmm.
And I think that's most of what I have to say. I think my only other complaint about the game is that you have to assassinate all of the Cult of Cosmos, but some of them are like main story related. Some of them it'll be like go to this town and then you'll be able to find that person there, or like go to this specific place, do some quests and you'll find this person. But some of them are really obscure. Like there's one where it's like, yeah, this guy runs a quarry in Attica. Okay, well he's not there. How do I get him to appear? And it's like, well, you've got to do these other four side quests first to get
Yeah.
his quest to appear, but it doesn't tell you that you need to do that. So there's a few of them that you have to look up a guide for to be able to actually find them, which is
Yeah.
slightly annoying because most of the other ones it's like, oh, okay, I know where to go to find this person, or they'll have a clue on them that leads to the next one. But some of them are
Hmm.
just like, where is this guy?
Where is this fish?
Where is this fish? He isn't here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we both really like Odyssey. It's I like the character, I like the story, I like the setting. It's just in my opinion, it's the best of the newer
I agree.
games. I mean, that's just it's personal preference, but it's also based on certain things like the amount of collectibles in Valhalla really puts a damper on that for me
Mm-hmm.
and for you.
Yep.
And yeah, there's certain issues with the others, and there's not as many complaints that we have about Odyssey. So yeah, I'm glad that you had fun with that one, but you didn't complete that one in April. You did for all
Technically,
intents and purposes, but
I stopped myself.
technically you waited to get the platinum in May because
Okay, so I
we
got the platinum today, which is the 13th of May,
Mhm.
as my 3000th trophy, but I needed another game to get me to the point where that would be my 3000th, and so I had to wait. I could have finished the game, and for intents and purposes, I
Yeah.
did. I just sat at the last mission going, oh, wait.
Yeah.
And then it took me like 15 minutes, and then the game was finished.
Right. It was like we needed to finish Saints Row 4, which we won't talk about today because we'll talk about that in our May wrap up.
But yeah.
But yeah.
That's the context of I didn't actually finish it, but there were reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could have quite easily finished it.
So my second thing that I played in April was This War of Mine, The Little Ones. This is...
Love that game.
Yeah, I had played this one before on Xbox, and so I was replaying it on PlayStation, obviously because I enjoyed it enough to play it again.
And I did the same last year.
Yeah. It's a war simulation, but instead of playing soldiers, you play as just regular people who are trying to survive the war that is going on in their nation. And I think it's based on Kosovo.
No, it's based in Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina during the Yugoslav conflict.
Okay.
Because they basically couldn't get out of the city for like 3-4 years because they were literally just under siege the entire time.
Yeah. So it's got like, there's bombings and they're shelling certain areas, and then certain areas are occupied by soldiers. And then you have certain areas that are occupied like by deserters from the war. And then there's just people who are just gonna kill people and take their stuff. Right? So you just have bullies and gangs and people like that who have risen up during the conflict. So there's all sorts of things that are going on in terms of your human opposition, but there's also the environmental opposition of it's dangerous to go out to get resources. Everything is destroyed.
Yep.
There's very little food. There's very little shelter. There's very little safety. And winter is coming. And so you have to balance all these things where you need to have food in order to survive, because you have different levels of well-fed versus hungry versus very hungry versus starving. And as you don't eat for various days, your characters will start to be starving. And if you get to that point, they are very weak. It's hard for them to move around. You can't scavenge as well because your characters aren't moving as quickly, and it just gets bad. And that happens with other conditions as well. If you get injured or if you get sick, those conditions worsen over time if they're not tended to. So if you get sick, you need to take medicine and you need to rest in a bed. If you are injured, you need to be bandaged. You have to bandage those wounds and you need to rest in order to recover. And if you don't do that, then those things will get worse to the point where your characters that you're controlling will either it'll be really hard for them to do things, and eventually they will die.
Yeah.
And so you have those conditions. You need to have food. You need to have protection. So some kind of weapons or to fortify your home where you're staying.
And have someone on guard duty.
And have people that are on guard duty, which means they don't sleep, which means they get tired. And if they haven't had good rest, then they also have worsened conditions, right? So you have all of those things. Then when it gets cold, you have to deal with warmth. And if you don't have a heater, and you don't have fuel to put in that heater, then it gets colder, and then people will get sick, and then they'll start to, get sicker and eventually die if it's not taken care of.
Well, that has its whole own thing as well, where it's like hypothermia.
Yeah.
So that's another scale on its own.
Right, of just coldness, where it's not even just sick, it's just you're so cold that you're
sick, you're cold, you're starving, you're tired. It's like a spiral.
Yes. And then there's also morale. So there's, content, and then there's sad, and then there's depressed, and then there's broken. And if you get to a point where you're broken, that character, you can't control them at all. They won't do anything. They'll just sit there in this state of just having given up. And sometimes if that happens, they'll leave or they'll kill themselves.
Yep. I've had both.
And so you've got all those things going on, and then certain people have different addictions that they have too. So if they are smokers, or they are addicted to coffee, or if they're addicted to alcohol, if they don't have access to those things, then their morality is, or not their morality, their morale is worse.
Yeah. It's a very brutal game.
It is. And so it's like all of these different things that you're trying to keep track of. So you need resources to build things, which means you have to go out to scavenge places. And then you might run into other survivors, and those people might be friendly and help you or want to trade things, or they might be hostile and they want to hurt you, kill you, take your things.
Or you're the hostile one and can steal from other people.
Yeah, you can go and steal from other people or kill them.
But then your morale goes down.
But then, depending on the characters, so they have different psychologies. So some of them have a very high moral standard. And so if you're stealing things or if you're killing people, then they get more depressed.
Yep.
But there are others who are very, more selfish or ruthless.
Like Roman. I think
Roman.
Yeah, I'm Roman. He's the one that he doesn't care about anybody.
Yeah. Well, he's a little bit of a psychopath, but
sociopath. I think the game says.
He's he was already a very broken individual before everything even started.
Yeah.
So
very detached from his own feelings.
Yeah. And so each person comes in with different experiences from the past. So some people are they were a chef, or they were a musician, or they were a soldier, right? And so they have different skills that are based on their background, and different outlooks on the world that are based on their background. And so where you have one who, if you take them and you go to somewhere and you kill the people and you take their stuff, they will get really depressed about that because they feel like, I'm a horrible person for doing this. Whereas there are other characters who are like, well, I just did what I had to do to survive. Those people were dead anyway.
Yeah.
I'm strong, and so I will take what I need to survive from the weak. And that's their outlook, right? So it's interesting depending on the people that you have. And when you play the game as normal, right? As it's, I guess, intended, it can be super brutal because depending on the group of people that you have, you might not have people who are really capable of doing a lot of the useful things like building or cooking or scavenging or guarding and fighting. And so it makes it really tricky to survive with those people. And with all of the different things that you're trying to prioritize and keep track of, it can be really easy to get into just a spiral of death and depression and starving and cold and everything.
I remember my first run, Boris got shot, Marco committed suicide, and then the cook died of hypothermia, and that was the end of my run. I was like, I need to do better.
Woo! Thankfully they do have customization settings where you can turn the winter off or make it mild and turn down the crime so that you don't get those outbreaks of bandits, and you can pick the characters that you want to have.
Yeah, you can play on easy mode basically.
Yeah, and you can choose the different places that are available in terms of resources and stuff, and whether or not they have friendly people or hostile people. And so
yeah, the customization's great because it's if you want to play a very gritty, realistic run, you can.
Yeah, or if you can turn it all up.
Yeah, or if you want to do I just want to like figure out the mechanics and work out which group is best, like which group
Mm-hmm.
survives the best in the easier scenarios and stuff.
Yeah.
Or you're going for the trophies and don't want to have to fight the entire simulation.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and or you want to have the people that you need. So the little ones is one of the expansions that they created for the game that adds children. So don't play this game if you're depressed. Um especially if you're going for the trophies because ooh boy, child abuse. Uh
Yes.
so
Are you
it
happy
adds
with yourself?
it adds children into the equation, and so you have these kids, and it is kind of neat, like being able to teach them to do different things. Like I'm going to teach them to cook, and I'm going to teach them to set rat traps so that we can catch food, or
I'm
I'm
going to
going to
teach them to make cigarettes
so that we can sell them to, or,
and
trade them
moonshine.
for things that we need. And so like teaching them things is kind of cool, but there's also like I'm hungry.
I'm sad.
I'm sad.
Will
No
you
one's
play with
playing with
me?
me.
Mm-hmm.
No one talks to me. They did bad things to those people.
Yeah. It's awful. It can
And
be.
one,
It can be. You have to break a child.
yes, one of the trophies is you have to bring a child back from the broken state to content. And the process of breaking those children, because the children are some of the most mentally resilient,
Yes,
actually,
they are.
in the game. So they don't get depressed as easily as some of the other characters, and so you have to like not feed them and
Or
let them
heal
get
them.
sick, let them get
Don't let them sleep in a bed.
don't let them sleep in beds,
Don't make any toys for them.
don't play with them, don't talk to them, don't make any toys for them,
The
don't
worst one is
oh
if they're bonded with someone, you get that person
you
killed.
take that person. Yes, that's one of the easier ways to like start making them depressed is you have them with a parent or you have them with a parental figure and then you send that person out to die. Oh, it's just awful.
And here's the thing: is like this is a representation of what people put up with in those
Mhm.
conditions. It's like they were under siege for 4 years,
Yeah.
and it's a video game, but it also makes you think about what people are capable of and how people
Right.
survived in that situation.
Mhm.
And the trouble with that war as well is it wasn't two sides versus each other. It was like four different people. It was Croats versus Kosovans versus Serbians versus Bosnians. It was just, how would you know who was on your side? Like, is
Mhm.
that my soldiers or are they one of the other three?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and you don't know, and sometimes you go into areas and you kind of have to guess as to whether people are hostile or not, or just take a chance and find out, or sneak around and listen to what they're saying
Or
as to
kill them
whether,
all
or kill them
stealthily.
all.
That's why you
um
take Roman.
and there's pretty horrible situations that get set up too, like a soldier taking a woman to like sexually assault her,
Which you can stop.
which you can stop or you can let happen.
Yep.
While you can let that happen while you raid the rest of the place and
You can.
take what you want.
There's also an old couple
Mm-hmm.
that you can go and raid their house.
Yep, and they can't stop you.
No, you can just run around and grab all of their food and medical supplies and leave. There's a father and son who are at a garage who will sell you their produce if you give them medicine because the father's sick, or you could just go in, murder both of them, and then steal all their stuff because they
And
have
take
loads
everything.
of things
They
in
do.
that place.
Yep. So it's
a morality simulator.
Yeah, it is. It's like I said, if you're depressed or if you have uh things that are going on in your world that are similar, or bad, or if you have any kind of PTSD, this is not a game for you. But I think that it's one of those things where it makes it, to me anyway, like it makes you feel something, right?
Yes.
Like, and it, I think, brings awareness to those of us who live in rather privileged areas of the world, where we relatively don't have those kinds of things going on, to let us have that little glimpse, into what something like that might be like. And that is the reality that some people today are living with.
I was literally going to say that's like the people of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Is they've been invaded and they're under siege in their own homes.
Yep.
And their own cities.
Yep. And we're, at least, I'm in the United States and you're in the United Kingdom. We're very far removed from some of those things because they aren't impacting us in those same ways. And
we have food, we have sanitation, we have clean drinking water, we have electricity. Mm-hmm. It's like even those basic needs certain people don't have.
Yeah.
And we just take it like for granted. Every day you just switch the light on. You put the microwave on.
You turn on your PS4.
Yeah. You get a glass of water.
Yep.
You're not cold at night.
Mm-hmm.
You can sleep because there isn't shells going off.
Yep.
Does put things in perspective.
You have a bed, because that's not something that you had at the beginning. Like, you had to build beds to be able to have a bed to sleep in, because everything just got destroyed and you were living in a shelled out, destroyed building.
Yep. And it didn't even seem like that was your house.
No.
It's like that's one that you found with a group of people.
Yeah, it was one that you and a group of survivors found, right? Yeah, in the game. But and you find random bits of evidence of people's lives and things that they did, and how they survived or didn't survive, and it's a very poignant game.
It is.
So, one that I enjoyed, although it's not one to play if you're feeling sad already. So, yeah. So that was it. That's all for my month.
And mine? Well, apart from stuff that we finished, we started and then finished in another month.
For sure. So the things that were next on our agenda were Saints Row 4.
Yep.
Which we have now finished. We're halfway through May as we're recording this. So we finished Saints Row 4 in May. So we'll talk about that next month. You went ahead and finished up Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yep, I just have the Fate of Atlantis DLCs to do.
Mm-hmm. And I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition. So I started that at the end of April. And I'm continuing to play that. So we'll have some things. There's a little preview for May.
Yep.
For May's discussion.
I have another game that I've done, but we'll talk about that in May.
Yep.
Well, we'll talk about that in the May edition.
In the May edition of Ramblings of Mad People. So yeah, it was a decent little month. Nothing. I finished a couple of short things and started some longer things that I've continued into May, and it sounds like you kind of similar. Like you started some DLC and then played Odyssey.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, I made some progress.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Well, so that was our April. Hopefully, everything is going well with all of you guys, and your gaming is going good, and you're getting those trophies and achievements and
platinums
and
100%s and
and playing those games.
Let us know what you've been playing.
Yeah, let us know what you guys have been playing, things that you've enjoyed.
Things you're looking forward to.
Yeah, recommendations from this first half of the year, because I know there are a few things that have come out that I have interest in. Nothing that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to play this right now.
Well, some of the things we can't play, we don't own the consoles.
Yeah, that's true. But there are a few things that I'm interested in checking out from the first 4 or 5 months of this year. And so interested to know if folks have things that they've played that they think we should check out. So
Indeed.
Take care of yourselves. Happy gaming, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.